If you are considering buying a FedEx route versus a completely different business, I think that this video is going to be super helpful for helping you sort of understand whether or not FedEx routes might be the right business for you. And so, for example, whenever we talk about private equity firms or a CEO of a private equity firm, pretty much like Alex Hermozi, and why I think that Alex Hermozi would probably never buy FedEx routes, I think that when you see those reasons, it's going to help you be able to make a better decision on which way you should go, whether you should just get a completely independent and true type of business or this contractual relationship that we basically have with FedEx. So, point is that there are really a couple of different things that PE firms are predominantly trying to do. I'm sure there's a lot of other things. They got tax strategies and blah, 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 all that stuff. That's not what we're talking about. One thing that private equity firms like to do is they like to scale. And they scale with these roll-ups, and essentially as they scale, you get economies of scale, so you can drop the expenses of your business and therefore increase your profitability. Now, whenever we look at that in the FedEx space, what happens is a couple of different things. One is that the economies of scale don't really exist to be able to have that opportunity. Like, you still need a mechanic. And if you've got double the amount of trucks, well, you just need another mechanic. Like, the second mechanic doesn't get cheaper. So the economies of scale don't really work so well in terms of reducing your expenses. The other problem is that you often have diseconomies of scale. Now, that sounds weird, but you have diseconomies of scale because this isn't a true business. It's a contractual relationship, and FedEx historically would sometimes pay less. They would just change the contract, pay less if contractors got over certain sizes. It didn't. I'm hand waving over a couple of different nuances here very quickly. So I know that there are a little bit of some inaccuracies, but for the sake of this video, like not going like 45 minutes, essentially it started to feel like you got paid less incrementally, which is sort of like getting larger basically caused you diseconomies of scale. So I know that sounds weird, but you're just going to have to trust me. So anyway, the point is that you have this issue of scale. The other problem in terms of the scale is that every time that you acquire additional routes, you have to apply for it. You got to interview for it. Terminal management has to approve it. Now, granted, there are some contractors that have, let's say, for example, over 100 routes. Why do the majority of contractors not have over 100 routes? Is that they are not motivated? Do they not have enough money to do it? No, it's because FedEx doesn't want them to be over a certain size. And so whenever FedEx would essentially look at these things, they'll say, hey, we don't want one particular contractor controlling everything. Once contractors historically got over a certain size, instead of FedEx bossing them around, the contractor would try to boss FedEx around. So, like, it's a true story. Just saw this firsthand. Terminal manager goes up to a contractor and says, hey, your tires are bald on this one tire over here. We feel like that might be kind of a safety concern. We don't want to have anybody's life at risk or whatever. And that same contractor was like, how about I just not deliver any of my packages? Would that make you happy? And so there was this contention where FedEx obviously wants to serve their customers. They want to have on-time delivery, all that kind of good stuff. But on the other hand, the contractors that are huge are trying to like boss FedEx around. And whenever there's so many routes that one particular contractor controls, you almost kind of can boss FedEx around a little bit. They didn't like that. Now, we're in the middle of 2026, and I do feel that FedEx is starting to realize that the quality of contractors has improved dramatically over the last 15 years. We're dealing with much more business professionals as opposed to not. We'll just leave it at that. And so the point is that I think that FedEx will be much more open-minded as we continue to move forward with having larger contractors. Now, here's the other big problem with FedEx routes, and the reason why I think that Alex Hermozi would never buy FedEx routes. And again, if you don't know who Alex Hermozi is, he's the CEO of a private equity firm. What he likes to do is he likes to find businesses that are doing well to a certain degree, whatever his buy box criteria is, and then he figures out ways to where he can grow it, expand it, make it better almost instantly with better sales, better SOPs, all that kind of good stuff. And so if you look at a FedEx route, you can't really improve it financially a whole lot. It's not like you can hire a better salesperson or pay your driver double and get 10 times the output that you would have from a single driver that you sometimes can in a typical business. So that upside, that immediate launch of upside, it doesn't really exist. And it's sort of like almost doesn't even make any sense for something like a FedEx route. And so the upside to that is that while it's hard to launch these businesses and improve them overnight and triple the income in a year and then sell it for 5 times more than what we paid for it or whatever, the upside is that it's hard to screw this thing up. Make sure you got trucks that run. Make sure you got drivers that show up and deliver stuff. It doesn't hardly get much simpler. Now, doesn't mean easy. Does not mean that it's easy, but it does mean that it's simple. And so the point is that Alex Hermozi could get into this business and be like, what am I supposed to do here? Just grind out 300,000. It's like, yeah, dude, grind out 300K. Like you can pay your bills with that a lot of times. Maybe not all of you, I'm sure. But the point is that you have to look at this business in a different sort of light, as in almost like taking over a rental portfolio of single family houses that are already improved, already have tenants in place, already have a 5-year lease or whatever. It's like you just take it over and you have to see it for what it is versus someone else like a private equity firm or whatever that's like, hey, that's not good enough. We need to launch this thing. We need to do a house that we can build from scratch. We need to do a house that needs severe cosmetic updates, and we do all that. And then we got our rents to double, and then we can get people in there. It's a different strategy. Neither strategy is right or wrong. It's just different. And when you start to think with precision on what would make one business better than the other, you can start to make a better decision on, wait a minute, FedEx routes are what I want. I like the idea of not being able to screw this thing up and run it into the ground. Granted, people do it. Never underestimate a person's ability to screw things up. But the other side of it is like, hey, for the most part, as long as you're doing the basic things, it's not like this thing just grinds down like, maybe it could with a manufacturing business where you lost a client or whatever. It's just not like that, right? But what you're giving up in regards to getting this reasonably stabilized asset here, you're giving up the ability to just launch it. Now, granted, people do grow their FedEx businesses, right? How do people get to 100 routes? I'll tell you how they don't do it. They don't pick one 10 route bundle and buy that from someone and then go back onto BizQuest and BizBuySell and then buy another 10 route bundle 9 times over. That's not how they do it. They get in there and they start buying from contractors directly, aka off market or private transactions where there's no broker involved. We never know about it. We never see it. It just happens. And the other thing that happens too is that sometimes contractors would fail. Whenever they fail completely, FedEx takes those routes back and basically gives it to whoever bids for it. You can see that on buildagroundbiz.com. I've got another video about that, about getting free routes. Again, that's predominantly the free routes. It's predominantly happening for existing contractors, not people that have never run a FedEx route ever. And so the point is that you can grow in that sort of inorganic sense to where you are, again, buying routes from other contractors that are selling, buying contracts from distressed sellers, or buying completely seized, if you will, routes from other contractors that have completely failed. What they're not doing is getting in there, changing the fleet around, changing the fuel types, paying differently with their drivers, hiring different types of people. Like that's stuff that you would do in a normal, like legitimate type of business that you can, manipulate in all sorts of different ways. It just doesn't really happen like that for FedEx routes. So because you can't really do that, again, you're kind of leveled out. So whenever you're looking at these businesses, just think to yourself, do I want to try to grow this thing? Am I extraordinarily entrepreneurial to where I've got a million ideas and I want to implement them? Don't get FedEx routes. FedEx doesn't need your ideas. They don't want your ideas. They want you to deliver stuff. They want you to do it their way. They've got their systems. Just do it and execute. If you're extremely entrepreneurial, just, again, get a different type of business where you can really implement those things. And that honestly will be better for you. If you are a successful, a creative thinking entrepreneur, you will be able to buy another business if you can get through the risk of the evaluation and all that kind of good stuff. you can buy another business and then do those things to grow that, you will have much more of an upward trajectory than you would if you had FedEx routes. Now, granted, there are multiple people with over 100 routes, but they are exceptional. And you need to think about why those are exceptional. And then you need to refer back to this video on all the different things that sort of impede that from happening. So anyway, hopefully this helps whenever you're considering FedEx routes versus other businesses and understanding a little bit more on how private equity companies or someone like Alex Hermozi might think, and then see which one aligns with you the most and then go from there. So anyway, take care and talk soon.